It's time to present Scott DuPont to bring you another episode of Finance Your Movie with tips and strategies to help you get your money to tell your story. It's time!
All right, exciting episode here with award-winning writer, producer, director Michael Baumgarten.
Hey, what's going on, Scott?
Uh, Thank you for doing this. I know how crazy busy we are. First disclaimer, um, I was in the film we're going to talk about in just a minute. You and I are friends. We've known each other for a while, but I do appreciate your taking the time because the past 3 years, I mean, you've churned out Hollywood Laundromat, Kyle's Pocket Dial, American Spark, Beyond the Crashing Waves is coming up soon. You got a Western in development. So thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
So what we're going to talk about today, you're definitely going to want to pay attention to this. All the indie filmmakers looking to do their first or second film or looking for money because you did what a lot of people are just going to think it's a hoax or fake news. You produced a feature-length motion picture shooting in Los Angeles, which is a very expensive place to do a film, with LA crews, Hollywood actors, no big names, of course, with post-production, music, color timing, ADR, sound mix, everything. And what was the budget?
Under $30,000. It was about 28K.
Wow. Say that one more time.
$28,000.
Okay, so that was not just the post budget. That was the budget for the entire film.
The entire movie from A through Z.
Okay.
Now, please note, I have deferred all of my own fees. So please note that. You know what I mean?
Okay. So before we get into, I think this episode will be very, and I don't usually do this, get into the production side, but I think some of our audience might have some questions on that. But before we get to that, where did you come up with the 28K? Was it just one single credit card, or did you bring on some investors?
Well, let's go back to the origin of why I did this.
Okay.
And it was because on Facebook and other social media, there were people that were trying to find quote unquote investors for short films. And so, since I have a knee-jerk reaction to that, I'm like, well, if you're going to raise 20 or $30,000 for a short film, why not just make a feature? And everybody then looks at me and goes, you can't make a feature for 20 to
You're
$30,000.
crazy. You're crazy.
Right. So I'm like, plenty of people in like the past have done it. So it is possible. You know what I mean? You can go right down the list of the people that have done a feature film for under $30,000 and careers that have been made because of it. So I was like, at least if you're going to, not finance it yourself and you're going to actually go seek investors, at least have something you can actually monetize to streaming and actually have a chance to make the money back.
Well, I'm going to stop you right there and give you a little bit more credit because I was truly inspired by the films that you alluded to. El Marachi, Brothers McMullen, Clerks, all done for under 30K. But that was years ago, man. Like I don't know a single filmmaker that has made a film in the past 5 years for under 30K that got distribution, and you're going to make a ton of money on this. I'm telling you right now.
Well, we hope so. That's that there's the point because it ain't like we have a lot of debt.
Yeah.
So that's what's good. So like it should.
So you deferred all or most of your costs. It's still an absolute shock or miracle, but you got the budget down to 28K, which I've seen the finished movie. It looks like it's maybe 150. Obviously, there's no huge Hollywood name, so I know it's not a $500,000 film, but it looks great. It looks 10 times your budget.
Thank you.
Um, so tell us how you actually got that money, unless you just flopped down your Amex card and you had $28,000 credit limit.
Well, I reached out to some friends of mine that have long said, "Hey, if you ever do like a movie, please let me know." And it was one where it wasn't like a half a million or 250,000. or anything just like that. So it was a thing where people, could just have a little fun and, put like, $900 in or a couple $1,000 in. And it wasn't anything that was big, big money. So in the course of probably, I would say, roughly about the course of just a couple of months, we raised enough money to go shoot it. And so I found these actors that I really, had a lot of faith in. And when I seen them do a test, just a whole test, a screen test of here's 5 pages. Now, once you get to this point, keep going as your characters. And they were able to do a 17-minute take before I said cut. And I
Wow.
was like, wow, proof of concept right there.
I
You
want
know
to
what I
back
mean?
up a quick second. We'll get
Sure.
into the how you did the film because I think that's very, very
Okay.
fascinating. But going back to the investors, were these all first time investors because the share price was so small?
Correct. And
Okay.
so then some of them were and some of them were not. Some of them had put money into other films, but strangely enough, they were shorts. The money they had put in were mostly in short films.
Wow. So
And
great opportunity to actually make some money, which they will on this film.
right. And so that was the thing because they made a short film. They're putting all this time and work into making the short film. And then I'm like saying, I'm like, but how do you monetize it really? It's not like you're going to be on Tubi or
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
like
and
that.
you don't have a $500,000 hole to climb out of before you
Right.
start seeing profit.
Yeah. And one of the responses was, but at least we're not taking 3 weeks to shoot. And I was like,
What was
bingo,
the total shooting days?
3.5.
3.5 weeks?
No, 3.5 days.
What?
Yes, three
You
and a
shot a
half
whole feature
days.
in 3.5 days.
Yes, correct. In other words, but it was less than 30 set hours, more like 28 set
Wow.
hours. Actual actors on set filming,
And how
28
many total
hours.
actors?
Between the main actors and some of the other ones, probably close to 15.
Wow. Wow. And it wasn't just all in one location. You were moving around a little bit.
That is correct. In other words, so we moved around from a pizza place to a house to a park to driving around in just like a Tesla. And just like as well, we also went to the beach. We shot out there as well. So it wasn't just a one location film. I just thought we would open it up a bit too. And that was a huge, huge help. And then also to support some of the shots we did at the beach, we actually found this dude who had amazing drone footage that was matching where we had shot and when we shot. So it was a perfect fit. So like I licensed some clips and really gave us more production value.
Wow. Wow. I just like I'm sure the audience head is absolutely exploding because that's actually cheap for post-production budget, the
It
28K. But the fact that
it
you made an entire film, um, let me ask you the same question that many, many people have asked Robert Rodriguez over the years, because it's probably a pretty stressful shoot if you weren't getting paid. Would you do it again on this
I
budget?
I I actually would, and I learned things from this one that I can actually cut costs down more.
Well, I hope you actually make some money on your next project, Michael. Um, let me ask you this. What would you, because there's going to be a lot of haters. I can see it when the movie comes out. There'll be Facebook groups saying, oh, it's a scam. What would you say to any haters who say in a big city with 15 actors and a legitimate movie that will play, we're going to see it in a theater soon. I'll let you talk about that. What would you
Mhm.
say to the haters that it can't be done?
Well, come check out the movie because I proved it can be done.
Yeah, you certainly did. I was impressed. Where can people see the movie next week?
Basically, where it's going to be is at the Melbourne Independent Filmmakers Festival in Melbourne, Florida, not Australia, Melbourne, Florida. and it's going to be at the Premier Oaks 10 during the festival. It plays at 3 p.m. on October the 19th, which is a Saturday.
Awesome. Anyone listening to this podcast, if you know anyone on the east coast of Florida, I'm praying for everybody in Florida. Hopefully, they won't be affected
Yeah.
by the big hurricane. Definitely send your producing partners, send anyone you know to see this movie because you really pulled off a feat. Kudos to you, Michael.
Thank you, sir. And also, again, it started with those two main cast members, Britt Crisp and Joe Barra. They really held down the fort because their improv skills combined with just their commitment to making the film happen is what really, really made this film happen. Because without those two actors getting along so well on screen and off screen, it was just it made my job so easy. And plus we shot it with four, just like with four cameras. So that was a huge, huge
Oh,
help
that helps. That helps.
to
Four cameras.
because we had two actors in separate locations and we had a film crew with in each spot and a sound person in each spot. So it was like two separate shoots shooting at the same time because it was all bridged by a phone call, Kyle's pocket dial. And so this way, as they're talking on like the phone as two X's catching up, it allowed for us to film two people, two locations at the same time and record it on both ends and film it on both ends from two different angles. And that allowed us to not have just a dull movie. It's actually something where we have things to cut to. And then for the other intermediate cast that comes in and out, they only had to do one day. So it was easy. They would show up, shoot a couple scenes that were necessary so we would have these, cutaway scenes, just so it wasn't like the same thing. And all they had to do was commit a half a day and then they were done. So it was easy actually. And I found ways to streamline the process the next time.
Yeah, well, hopefully you'll have a much higher budget the next
I hope
time.
so too. Yeah. To like be
But
honest, it does
kudos
help.
to you. In case anyone can't make it to the Melbourne Independent Film Festival Saturday, October 19th, when and where can people see it streaming this fall?
It will certainly be out by first quarter of 2025 on streaming.
And are you going straight to AVOD?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so Tubi, Plex, maybe some of those free channels. So there's really no excuse for every single filmmaker on this podcast not to see this film. I went out and bought literally the DVDs for El Mariachi, Brothers McMullen, Blair Witch Project, and one other because I study
Yeah.
how people did these. Clerks is the other one I
Clerks,
got.
yes. Yeah,
Um,
that there was one of the films that lit my fuse in terms of believing I could actually make a feature film. And luckily, you know what I mean, that they're paid off because I've now made as a writer director like 11 now. So it's been great that I got to learn from Kevin and that whole gang and all that kind of stuff, because I got to study what they did. You know what I mean? To pull that off. And I think that there was done in 20 plus days. Clerks was. You
yeah.
know what I mean? So
For
that there
under
was a thing.
30,000. So what you did adjusted for inflation is an absolute miracle. And you should let Kevin Smith, because he inspired my career, you should let Kevin Smith know that you inspired him to do this film.
Absolutely. And so I actually met him like last year and so I mentioned it, but it was a busy time, so I didn't really have a chance to go into detail, but on social media when the film comes out, I definitely will.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, at least you got to tell him that in person. And where is the best way that people can reach out to you or follow you?
Instagram, MB Filmmaker One.
Awesome. There you go. Michael Baumgarten, thank you so much. You inspired me. I hope that everybody listening to this podcast will be inspired not to wait for your $5 million dream feature. If you can figure out a story that can be done for under 100,000, maybe under 50,000, you can follow in Michael Baumgarten's footsteps. He just proved it for 28K. God bless you, man.
Thank you for everything you do, Scott, because you really help a lot of people.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
It's time!
There's never been a better time to make your own film. And if you have a dream project you're excited about and 100% committed to getting it funded, go to financeyourmovie.com, click on the green telephone, you'll see our calendar and find an open spot. We'll do a one-on-one call, which will be the best hour you've ever spent getting clarity and strategy towards financing your movie.